right, we're back. We got Trevor Munson on, student assistant from Nebraska, Kearney. I think that's how you say it, or Kearney. I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about what that life is like, which will be interesting. As a
lot
student
of
assistant.
hours for a lot of work. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
But
we'll give
Coach,
you an insight into that.
He's gonna give you a different perspective on kind of that world too. Also a little D2 ball. He handles a lot of the recruiting and whatnot that they do. I believe he played there as well, so I'm sure that's a little bit of a different, transition going from, being a teammate of some of these guys and then having to kind of coach them up and tell them what to do from that perspective. So he should be on any second, and then I look forward. There he is. Hey, Coach. Oh wow, look at that! Look at that mustache, man. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's funny. I know.
Nice.
I know. I had to grow it out.
All good. Coach, we appreciate you taking the
quarterback
time.
From like the quarterback who used to play for Washington State.
Minshew. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time. We know you're a busy guy with classes and whatnot. We were just kind of giving you a little bit of an introduction. But we just wanted to take care. Thank you for coming on, taking the time, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Coach, so it's interesting. I mean, this is a different kind of deal, talking to a student assistant. So it's great to really get an insight as to what that life is like. Give us kind of an intro to how you got into it, and then give us a little bit of what the day in the life is like for you.
Yeah, so I came in here my COVID year, and I played football here. I tore my knee up my first day of practice, came back later. I tore it up again, and then I came back in the spring, and I had a bum shoulder that just never really healed quite right. So I stopped playing. I watched that fall go by, and I hated watching it. And so then my old head coach leaves, new head coach comes in, and he's somebody that I was fairly familiar with when he got here. And I remember I was bartending at the time, and I DM'd the O-line coach, and I was like, hey, if there's any help you guys need, I'd love to hop on. And so I went in for an interview the next day, and Coach Held took me on. I started with the O-line, went to the receivers in the fall, worked with the linebackers last spring, and then I was with the receivers. I'm with the receivers currently. And then the next day for me, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm in class from 11:15 until about 1 o'clock. And then I go straight to the office. Right after that, I let me go up there, get some recruiting done if I need to, watch some film on some guys, talk to some of the players. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in class from 8 to 2. And then once 2 o'clock, it's straight up to the office. And then I'm up there for the rest of the day.
Very cool. Now, what are some of the tasks that they have you doing?
So for the most part, I would say it's more quality control in terms, just being with the football team, just making sure practice is going, keeping us level-headed, throwing the football. And then for the most part, on Saturdays when we have visitors, or Fridays if a guy comes early, I'll host them. I'll show them around town, kind of show them the ins and outs, show them a couple hole-in-the-wall spots here in town. And then Saturdays, I'm up in the office, at 7 in the morning. And what I'll do is I'll get a visitor sheet early in the week, and then I'll go after on Saturday mornings after they play on Fridays, I'll go get their stat line from the night before. Because I got to be able to come through and be prepared with, what to talk about these guys. And, I don't want to walk into it and, be kind of flat and feel them out. Like, I want to be the one actively engaged in the conversation. That these kids are wanting. They want a little bit of transparency. They want to know that these guys are being watched and evaluated constantly. So, for me to do that on Fridays and then to them when they arrive on campus, I think it's pretty cool for them. Like, they light up with a smile as soon as they, you had 2 sacks on Friday night, held 150 yards of offense. So it's pretty cool to see how that all works out.
Well, it's definitely an important role on your part because, you're basically that interaction of keeping them pseudo entertained and kind of showing
Mhm.
them the ropes and the appeal of why they should come here to this school more so than just the football, right? So, and especially, mom, dad, like they want to see what's going on off campus. They want to see all those
Mhm.
kinds of things. So your role is pivotal in that aspect. Have your coaches kind of guided you in those ways of, hey, kind of do this or do that, or hey, we want you to take them here, or we want you to kind of show them these types of things? Like, I'm sure they've given you a pretty good breakdown on each guy coming in, but it's ultimately your responsibility to kind of seal the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, when they come in the morning, typically we have these guys come in 3 hours before game days. But then the priority guys that come in Fridays, they'll
Right.
come in on the early Saturday, morning, like 8 o'clock. And so then I'm giving them, we as a staff walk down there until about like 8:30, and we'll kind of talk a little bit, and they just turn them over to me, and then it's all me from that point on. I show them the weight room. We show them the technology that we have in the weight room, kind of what a workout block looks like for us, and how lifting during the season is going to look, off season is going to look, winter training, spring football, summer training, and then we go into the training room after that. In our training room, let Murph talk. He's in the Athletic Trainer Hall of Fame here in Nebraska. We got hot tubs, laser therapy, and so he gives his little spiel. Take him to the locker room. They have a little setup for him. Has their number, position if they want to go do a photo shoot real quick. We got this really cool backdrop that was made,
Oh,
and
I'm
then
sure
just
that's
kind of.
important. Everybody's got to get
Oh
their
yeah.
pictures, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then after that, our academic lady takes them from me, and then she brings them back after like an hour after they meet with their desired major. And
Right.
then typically their position coach watches film with them and shows them
Oh,
good plays, bad plays, and what we're wanting to do. And so, I think that's probably my favorite part is, show them the good, but you have to show them the bad too. Like it's give and take with that kind of stuff.
understandable.
Well, what made you want to kind of get into coaching, and what was the thought process with that?
So when I came in here, I was the first committed class, and I was really bought into the vision that our head coach had. He didn't have a really good first 3 years. Like he started off 0-12, and then he went 3-8, and then he went 6-5, and then he went 6-6, then he went 7-5 or 8-5 and won a bowl. And I was really bought into what he was wanting to do with the football program. And I'm like, send me 12 guys. Who are the 12 guys you guys have offered that you want me to go help you guys get? And I think 10 out of 12 of them committed. We signed one of the top classes in Division II football. And when I came in on my official visit and we started talking scholarship money, they bumped scholarship up about $1,000. And in Division II, that's all the difference in the world. Like an extra $1,000 Division II, like that's awesome. And so he's like, like this is something that you could really go and do, and make money doing it. And so that's kind of how I got involved with it. At first I really was nursing is what I wanted to do, and then I changed my major. Realized I didn't want to be in college for 8 years,
Yeah,
and
it's a
just
long
wanted to
haul,
go.
bro. It's a long haul.
Just wanted to take a GA job where I got in here, and then go get my MBA, and it just made the most sense. My dad's been covering recruiting since 1999. He works on free. He covers all of Husker recruiting, and he just kind of watches all that. So I grew up around recruiting, and I've always just been so fascinated by it. And to me, it's not a job, and that's kind of the whole reason that I wanted to get into it.
As far as what you guys kind of like, what is the life like for players at Division II level at Nebraska Kearney? Like, what is that process like? A lot of players, are they don't really understand what D2 is like. Like they understand D3, they understand FCS, FBS. Explain a little bit more like what D2 ball is like.
Yeah, so we're the MIAA conference. The best way to describe our conference, this is the SEC of Division II. there are guys you're going to play on Saturdays, and you're going to look at them and say, how the F are you playing football? And to me, that's our biggest point as a university, is saying that, we can go in, and I feel like obviously there's some exceptions like the Big Sky, but I feel like this conference could really go in and compete with FCS football. But in terms of how a day goes, Mondays we're completely off. Mondays they don't have any football obligations. Let's go to class, go home, hang out, watch Monday Night Football. If you want to come up and watch film, do it. Tuesdays, if you want to go up in the morning, watch film, do it. If not, go to class. And then we're in meetings from 1:30 until 2:40, and then pre-practice starts at 2:40, and then we're in practice until about 4:50. And then after that, our varsity, or the travel roster, or guys that are going to suit up and play, they go and lift right after practice. Wednesday mornings, the guys that aren't shooting or traveling, they go in and lift in the mornings, and then it's the same schedule. Go to class 1:30 to 2:40, and then practice starts. Thursdays, same thing, 1:30 to 2:40. We're half shells on Thursdays, and then practice a little bit shorter. We put a little bit more details in the special teams during that day, and then we'll do a lot more scout team stuff during those periods, and just kind of focus on the more minute details and stuff that we feel like Tuesday and Wednesday, we might not have gotten the best of those plays, so we need to really hammer on this today. Fridays and just helmets, but that's true walkthroughs, more special teams focused. We'll do like special teams call outs, and then we'll go into a scout period. And then we'll do another special teams call out, and then go into a scout period. And then that's if we're not traveling. And then we'll hop on a bus normally Friday mornings, and then go do a walkthrough when we get to our halfway point, and then get to the hotel. Then we're in meetings all night, and we're in meetings till 9 p.m.
And you guys mostly bus travel?
Yes. Well, so like if we make playoffs, I think it's 600 miles is the cutoff before you have to fly. But for the most part, we're busing everywhere, and we're the only team in Nebraska, so there's a few trips that we have to make. Yeah. So
every away game is basically an overnight for you guys.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which has a whole different
we'll leave Friday morning, and sometimes we get lucky and it's only a 5-hour bus ride, or we're on our way to Joplin in 2 weeks, and that's 8 hours. And we just got back from Minnesota 2 weeks ago, and that was about 7 hours. So it's the bus life can suck, but it's honestly, it's a really fun experience.
Of course. Well, I also think like that, and that's part of being, quote unquote lower levels, that these are things and logistics that you have to deal with, as a D3 player myself. Like, we had to travel from New Jersey to Buffalo, which was 8 hours, and it was an overnight. Yeah. And there's just a lot of things. Doesn't matter what kind of team you're playing, whether you're supposed to beat that team by 50 or whether you're supposed to compete, like that, those things all factor into it, right? I mean, you can look at even right now with, James Franklin at Penn State has come out and talked about, hey, we have to change our travel schedule to go out to USC because, our airport here in Happy Valley doesn't have a long enough runway. So we have to drive 2 hours to Harrisburg, and then we have to now fly to, to go to USC, and it takes more. We have to leave on Thursday and not on Friday. And these are the logistics and the intangibles that a lot of people really, I don't think, understand. But other than like those things, yes. But you can look at this, like look at the schedule, and this is Division II ball, this is Division III ball. Like, all of these guys have the time, where you're meetings and you're practicing and you got to get your lifts in and all of those other kind of things. I just think that the whole Division II, like Dave said, really kind of just gets caught in the middle of this whole mix in terms of like what's going on with it, right? Because and the same way D3 gets caught because there are certain, it's geographical, right? So there's a lot of Division III programs in the Northeast, and then there's a lot out West, but then there isn't so many in the South. And then, you're looking at Division II, right? Like, there are certain geographical pockets where these certain levels of football kind of factor in. And I think that's part of it.
Right. Yeah. The D2 landscape and the D1 landscape kind of in the same boat. The MIAAs, there's there's talks about, expanding the conference and,
Of course.
do you add another Nebraska school, like a school like Wayne State, who's had a great last 2 years? You add another in-state rival for us, and then you get a school like a school of mine. But how does travel work from going from Golden, Colorado, and they got to go to Joplin, Missouri, all the way in Southern Missouri? It's just it's the
It comes
whole
down to
landscape of
logistics and it
college
comes down to
football.
money.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down to.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
The whole college football landscape is completely altering. People aren't really cautious of that, but it's very real that we're going to see some crazy stuff here in the next, 5-10 years.
yeah. So let me talk to you about, let me check with this, how things go. So when you're recruiting, right, are you recruiting mainly Nebraska, or do you guys branch out? Do you take a kid that wants to come in? Have you seen it change in the last couple years since you've been there? Just give me kind of the rundown of kind of how you guys look to recruit, or the people or the kids that you see, because other than, I mean, look, the University of Nebraska is known for those walk-ons, right? Like, that's the history of the Nebraska
Yep.
program, right? And now
Yep.
that you've talked about, like, you've been in it with your father being in it, like, you've seen it. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're going to get in-state kids first. In-state kids are a priority to us. Whatever kid that, I think is Nebraska, like you said, is known for the walk-ons. Do you want to, and I'm not saying this that this is the sure case. Do you want to go be a jersey out there? Do you want to go put on that red end and go sit on the bench for 4 years and not see any type of playing time besides senior day?
And maybe
like
get a
you only
shot
get
to
to
run
hear,
down on kickoff at some point, like once.
like why would you want to go do that? You have scholarship money here waiting for you and an opportunity to play. And whatever kids that they're not offering, we got to go find those hidden gems. We got to go find those guys that are the backups and find a way to get them here. Like there's a running back at Millard North. The starting running back at Millard North, committed to Nebraska. His backup is an absolute bruiser, and he's probably my running back right now in the state. And he's just an absolute baller. And we got to be able to go find those kids and get those kids here. And then we're going to start branching out, down in Kansas. Now we're going to go to Missouri, and we're going to go look in Colorado and Oklahoma, South Dakota. We're going to go to Wisconsin. And we're going to do that until about December. We're kind of waiting for early national signing period to get over with, because the D1s miss out on somebody on early national signing day. The next thing they're going to go do is go find that guy they offered to work on, or go find that kid that they've been flirting with all year, but they haven't pulled the trigger on him yet. But with a school like us, well, I've been talking to this kid for 4 months. I've been talking to this kid for 5 months. I've been talking to him since summer camp. So I've already established my relationship with him. And, if he wants to take that, absolutely. To me, I value relationships a lot more than I do, somebody coming in late. And then,
Dad taught you well.
Yeah. And then after December, I'm going to start going down south. I want to get into Texas a lot more. We got a couple Texas kids on the roster, and that helps. It helps that I'm from Texas too. Kind of going and finding those kids, and then I want to go into Georgia. I want to go into Florida.
It gives them a homer to kind of look at and be like, hey, if this guy came here and he's saying it's cool, he kind of went through the same thing I did. You know what I mean, or that type of stuff. So like you said, those relationships matter.
Yeah, and so then once we start doing that, like these Southern kids do not care about where they have to go play football. They just want to keep playing football. That's their biggest thing. There's not enough, like you said earlier, there's not enough D2s, or not enough D3s down south. There's not enough. There are way too many kids looking for a home that could be absolute ballers at the D2 level, and they're just kind of stuck. So that's just kind of how we take recruiting. And, like we're going to go sign probably about 30 to 40 kids in class. Like we'll probably, the 105-man rosters coming up, that's something that's going to be kind of interesting for us in, terms of scholarships. Like we get 36 scholarships. That's all we get. So everything that we do is partial. So, there obviously there's going to be a couple guys that, there's the guys that, they probably shouldn't be playing football here. so they're going to get a bigger scholarship. But that's
Of
where
course.
this is where you go get your smaller town kids in Nebraska or down south, or still in the Midwest. Kind of walk on and kind of see what they're about more than anything.
Have you seen the number? Have you seen your transfers or guys that are interested in your school, whether to be getting out to go to a different level or whether coming in? Have you seen that increase in the last couple
Yep.
months?
I think the people are really starting to view this conference as a powerhouse conference. Like my biggest pitch to these guys that haven't really played a whole lot of FCS in the years they've been there. If you feel like you can play at a very high level, you can come here. And I'm not going to say that they're going to play right away. Like I still have to see you, with my eyes in person. But if you who you say you are, come show us. Come show us.
Right.
Central Missouri down the road. They got a Michigan transfer last year. They got a transfer from Miami. They got a transfer from Utah State, Florida International. Like all these Power 5 kids that either D1 or they've been on scout team the last 3-4 years. Now they want an opportunity to play. Well, why wouldn't you come play in a conference like this?
Right.
Well, what is as far as like your guys' process? So, how involved are you in recruiting for in your role?
I would say I'm fairly involved. I do a lot of scouting, and then if I see a kid hit the portal, like I'm instead of floating the on-3 transfer portal and just kind of seeing who's getting in there, who we could have a shot at, and who we wouldn't. I'm basically a feeder. I feed all these kids.
So you're the first line of defense, basically, right? Like you're basically the first line of, hey, this guy might be a guy, or hey, this might be a guy, or hey, check this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before, and then you go and you pass it to either the GAs or the coaches themselves.
Yep.
Well, what is that process? So like a film comes into you. What is the process then from like you get a film on somebody? What is the process that you go through to get them into the right channels or to filter it? What's your process?
So I take film, I go through and I watch it, and I kind of prep an evaluation, then I bring into the coaches. And so then I'll go straight to the position coach. I'll go straight to the position coach and I'll say, hey, I really like this kid out of, whatever city, whatever state, or whatever institution. And I'm like, I think he could benefit us, our route running game in terms of being more explosive plays. Or I think this guy could help with agile run plays, or if we're looking for an absolute guy that can get in the box and then explode downhill, I'll take the linebackers coach, and then I'll sit there and I'll watch that film with them. And we'll watch, however many clips we like. And they'll either tell me straight up, hey, I really like this kid, or,
hey, you're not even close.
Yeah, or they'll tell me I'm crazy. So, it's just, it's a learning process too. You kind of pick up on what kind of players that these coaches like, and you start kind of dialing in on those details. And so that's honestly a really cool part, and it's a curve for me.
Yeah, and I think that's where you develop yourself as a coach as well, right? Because now you're gonna know, right? Like, hey, we run this type of offense, and an RO line coach needs these types of tackles or these types of centers, and these are the kind of guys that he's looking for. And then, you might go into another room and the guys say, no, this is what I'm looking for, or this is what we want, or these kind of things. Where, hey, we need guys that can do this, this, and this because they got to fill this role, or hey, don't even bother with those guys because they don't come here anyway. That's the process of you learning that, and then as you build that trust with those coaches, oh, hey, Trevor, like, and then you just continue your process with that. And I think that's really awesome for you to kind of develop, especially if you want to stay into that, because look, college football, no matter what it is, you can X and O and do all this other kind of stuff, but like the lifeblood of college football is recruiting, getting the right guys into the system, getting those guys. And now with social media and the array of how many just guys have film and the access to it, like without your initial line of it, I mean, I can't even imagine when you go up, the size of recruiting staffs and how they're going to expand now with who's recruiting high school, who's recruiting college, you know what I mean? Like who's just going to do the portal. Like these things are just astronomical on a different level at this point.
yeah, there's, we went down to Nebraska for a walkthrough on our way to go play Central Missouri, and I stopped off and I was talking to the recruiting guy, and he either told it was either 4 or they have 5 recruiting GA spots alone, and that's not even student assistants. Like, you're getting 5 guys for specifically recruiting and scouting, and you have all these student assistants. Like Tennessee, I know they have student assistants that scout certain position groups.
Yeah.
Like, the scouting and recruiting landscape is quickly growing. It's rapid. It's rapid. So it's a great time to get in right now.
Mhm.
Great time to get into this right now, especially with college football starting to modernize. So, not saying all the old guys are getting out and the new guys are coming in, but you have to have somebody familiar with the lingo, how to talk to these kids. You have to have people like that on staff that can resonate with these kids just a little bit more.
Right.
It's one of those things that's how you kind of in college recruiting, what's so typical for prospects is how you determine what a prospect is. And so what do you go through? Like, what is kind of your process and your staff's process as determining, okay, this is a guy that can play at our level. This is a guy that we think is good enough, or this guy is not. Like, what are some of the kind of parameters?
So since I work with the receivers, I'll kind of go based off of a wide receivers film and what I'm watching.
Great.
First I'm watching is I want to watch your stance. I want to make sure you're not taking what we call a reload. It's when you're too high up in your stance and you got to come right back down and you got to shoot out. It's being in a receiver stance like playing. It's like run a track. You got to come out the blocks quick and then you do your build. The route runs the same way. Next, I want to see how your ability is to put your foot in the ground and move. That's just kind of something you can't really teach. Just kind of like that natural bend, and just kind of seeing that. And I want to see how, tuned up their route running is. Like, a lot of high school kids are raw in terms of their route running. Like, you're not going to see guys that are ripping their elbow through on speed out and, they're just kind of flashing their eyes around. And, my elbow is it's how quickly I'm going to get turned around. If I rip that elbow through, I'm out of my break just that much faster. I got to see how low you're getting in, how violently you're, shutting down your routes on a curl route to come back, post curl, just kind of seeing that. And then I want to see your explosive plays too. I want to see your ability to track the football. I want to see your ability to go up and get it, distracted drill catch, go get that ball in the window. How are you securing the catch if you're inside the box? Got to keep your head on a swivel. You don't want to cut that, slant right into the box and then just get absolutely smoked in the middle. And are you holding on to the football? And then what I'll do is once I kind of get that evaluation, I'll rewind it. And now I want to see who you're playing against. Now I'm going to watch the corners. Now I'm going to watch the safeties. Now I'm going to watch your linebackers. And, I want to see, who you're up against. And, this is kind of where you're from and what town you're from and a level of competition you're playing. Because, I don't really think high school kids kind of realize, your level of competition is a deciding factor in this recruiting process.
Absolutely.
It's, you can throw for 3,000 yards through week 7, but, who are you up against? Who's your supporting cast? How is this all working out the way it does?
Interesting. First of all, what's so interesting is the stance, because you see so many kids today, and when you try to get on them, when they're young or even in high school, and you're trying to explain to them when you waste movement, when you do a wasted movement, that's time wasted, right? And you can get away with that in high school, but you're not going to get away with it in college, no matter what level you are, right? You're going to get jammed. You're going to get someone plays you and jams you.
How many times do we talk about it when we see these guys in showcases and we see these guys, or we just see these guys that are just posting their film like, oh, I'm working with a trainer and we're working on 1,000 moves at the line going lateral. And we talk about these little things all the time.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
It's just not something that we really work on, like, as a receiver room either. Like, when we go camps, the first thing that we're doing is your stance and start. And we're teaching them, take a knee like your coach is talking to you, and then pop up, and then stay low. And then I try to explain it like track. Some of these kids don't run track, and you can tell.
Oh yeah.
And they come out straight up, and it's just like you're wasting all of this like speed and power that you can come out with. And this kind of the fallback with Midwest kids though is there's no skills trainer out here. They don't have a skills trainer.
Oh.
And so there's
Really?
there's like there might be a guy or two, but they're mainly teaching this top end stuff, and they're teaching how to get off of a press. But even watching these kids line up and press, their hands are down. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to get in a fight with I'm not
You're
going to get in a
get
fight with
ready,
somebody with
buddy,
their
because
hands
this
down.
ain't happening.
It's like, yeah, dude, go ahead, have your way. Like,
yeah,
it's just
like,
and and then if you go and watch these guys, our guys, like go watch a guy like Stephen Lewis when he gets into a press man concept. Like we were working this yesterday in practice. He is so low, I can't even see his numbers. I can't jam him off that. And he does such a good job with his hands too. Like, you start into the level of college football, and when these guys are too low, these corners aren't worried about pressing you. They're worried about putting their hands on your shoulder pads and bringing you down. Because if your center of gravity is already low, I don't have to worry about putting my hand in your chest and disrupting you. Now I got to put you in the ground. And so it's the skills training aspect. In the summers, it's something I try to do on the side. I work like I don't. Coach Held, as he says, he throws me a bone, and he throws me a small scholarship, and and for out of thankfulness for me and what I do out of my own. Like I don't have a job. This is my job. Like I don't go and make money. Like I could be. Like this is what I want to do. This is resume building for me. He throws me a bone, and then in the summers, I work, and then I'm training kids on the side too. Like I'll train a kid on the weekend. I'll do it locally. Like I'll go to Kearney High School and I'll go to Kearney Catholic, and I'm like, give me all of your receivers for a summer. Like I'm not if I charge, I'm charging them $10. Like I had a trainer. I remember there was a trainer in high school, and I don't want to say names, but it was $150 per hour with him. And like I just need $10 for the session, dude. Like I need a gas tank. I need groceries. Like
yeah.
I'm not worried about
the real struggle of a
like
student assistant life. Like, and this is what a lot of people don't know. Like they don't understand this part. But you're staying within the game, and you're helping guys do what they need to be done. You're focusing on the good details. And look, I'm sure every coach on that staff that you work for is more than appreciative of the work that you put in, especially as they continue to kind of mold you and have you, now they can, hey, show me this, or hey, do this, like, and it's just all part of the process. And it's so much help. Look, I do it as a high school coach, right? The second some kid gets hurt, it's like, dude, you are now my GA. Okay. Like you're going to be with me, and you're going to do this and help me out and do all this other kind of stuff. And then, and they love it. And it's all part of it, because you can never have too much help as a coach. You need eyes, you need guys to help you with that stuff. Even if it's your relationship with the players, like that stuff all benefits the team on a different level, where a lot of people have no idea how important that is.
There was a study done, I believe it was after Georgia won the national championship, maybe it was Alabama, but there is a direct correlation with how much help staff that you have in winning. So the more staff members you have, the more wins you have. It was a really fascinating study, and kind of seeing how that plays out. And like, I might be recruiting high school kids. I'm trying to recruit students coming in us. We had 3 student assistants we had 4 student assistants last year, and we're down to 2 because those other 2 were education majors. Now they're student teaching. But they have 1 guy on offense, they have 1 guy on defense, and then we go and do whatever they need special teams wise. So it's just kind of there's definitely a fallback with that in terms of like I think people are kind of so caught up in the bigger picture, like, oh,
they need a title. Everybody needs a title, and everybody needs to get paid, dude. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. And I want to do this for the sake of doing it and getting the experience. I graduate in May, and I'm going to seek opportunities elsewhere, because I want to put myself on a platform. I've been here for 2.5 years. There's 2.5 years, like, I feel like I built a very good foundation for what I want to do and how I can help, and then take that to the next level. So the Kansas head coach, Coach Leipold, he was in Kearney 2 weekends ago because we're recruiting his son, and he had a bike. So that was an interview for me from 8:30 to noon. Like I have them alone to myself, and and that's what the head
Smart.
coach told me. He's like, this is where you get your foot in the door, and so that was really cool for me, and that process ended up very well for me. So just kind
Good
of
for you.
looking forward to the next opportunity. Yeah.
Good for you, man. It's good stuff.
No, it's really cool hearing like kind of how it all works for you, and very rarely do we get insight into someone who's a student assistant, right? We and what exactly that you have going on and how it all works. Does the I have a couple of final questions. Transfer portal and NIL, what role is that playing at your level? I mean, obviously they're getting transfers. I get that, but is NIL part of the issue? How big is the transfer portal for you guys? How does that all work?
So NIL is not really big in the Division II level. At least with us, it's not. Like, you're gonna have a couple schools. I know UCM has a Nike rep. Like, we don't have that. Like, the coolest alumni we have is Kamaru Usman. Like, Kamaru Usman went to school here. One of the guys who designs the characters of South Park went here, but they're not kicking over money to us. Like, like
they're not just like, hey, here you go, here's a couple whatever's, sign a running back.
Yeah, they're not doing that. So like for us, like we're selling a vision, and like we're finally starting to get all like we just got to bring the scoreboard. It's freaking huge, and like last year none of the scoreboard even worked, and like we're starting to turn that over. But to get back to the portal, NIL's not huge. NIL's not huge. You're gonna have merchandise in the shop, and it's gonna have your number on the back and your last name, and it'll have all the details on the front too, which is really cool for these guys, like their parents to go and get it, and siblings to go and get it, and family to go and get it, especially for the guys that we have that are far away from home.
Yeah, because I was looking at your roster. You have a lot of California guys, right? Like there's a good amount of those guys that are from there.
Yeah.
But
you got some Cali
like you don't have
Florida
guys like you don't have quarterbacks that are saying, hey, I need, where's my $50,000? Like that's not happening at your level.
Nope, we don't. It's not even in the conversation. It's not even in the conversation. And honestly, that's probably my favorite thing about recruiting.
Yeah.
And the transfer portal, like we don't have a window to where these guys can redshirt and go. And so like that window doesn't open for these until our season's over. We have exit meetings, and they walk in and say, I wasn't okay with how last year went. I'm going to go ahead and see what opportunities I have in the portal. But we're also not, we're still paying attention to who's in the portal right now. Like that's what I'm kind of paying attention to. These coaches don't that way. When our season's over and they're done with these exit meetings, all right, well, here's a spreadsheet, of who's in the portal right now. I feel like we can go and get somebody that I've been already talking to for the last 2 months, and that's kind of where we stay in the portal. Obviously, the portal's inevitable. Like we're going to lose guys to the portals. We're going to get guys from the portal. It's kind of how it goes. Am I a fan of the portal? Not really. But it's just kind of one of those things of football that you kind of have to adapt to.
It's quite a process. It's really interesting. I can't thank you enough for coming on and really helping us understand more about your guys' process and what you're doing. It's cool to see student assistant like yourself being proactive and being active, and it's going to help your career. I'm sure your coaches have told you that as well. But yeah, it's super, super important. And in today's college football landscape, man, the more you do and being young and being out there is going to only help you continue to grow your career. Obviously helping the kids that you're working with now, but for your future as well. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the first podcast I've ever done. So I was a little scared coming on here, but you guys made it very. You guys made it very easy for me to get on here. I can't
Listen, it
thank
works
you
like
enough.
this. When you're passionate about something and you care about it, it gets easy to talk to. It gets easy to talk about, and you can hear the passion in your voice. And you're gonna do great things because, like Coach said, you're proactive. You're taking initiative. You're setting yourself up for the future. You're learning as much as you can. Like, just be a sponge and keep that network. Those networks are really what gets it done. Like, there hasn't been a
Yep.
position for any type of job that I've ever gotten that there hasn't been a direct correlation to back me playing where I played college football, things of that nature, right? So, and like you
Yeah.
said, you win with people, and that's important. So, I
Yeah.
appreciate you
It's all
taking the
about who
time,
you
man.
know.
Let's stay in touch. If we can do anything for you, let us know. And hopefully we'll talk to you again when you're coaching somewhere else, bud.
Absolutely. I would love to stay in touch with you guys. I can't say thank you enough for having me on. I really had a good time.
Good stuff, buddy.
Awesome, Trevor. You
Good
have a
luck,
great
man.
day, man. Keep plugging away, and we'll see you real soon. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Thanks again.
Take care, bud. Man,
Right,
I
that
don't know
was
if I
great.
could do that life, dude.
That's a different perspective, dude. But you know what though? There's so much money in college football that the key is to keep plugging away when you're young.
Right.
Like if
I
I
mean, look
if
at
I can think back to when I was in college, it was a different realm financially. If I could understand where it was going,
yeah.
you know,
Oh,
he's
dude,
in it where it's already there. It's
he's
there.
perfect.
So you already could see the path now where there really is tremendous opportunity financially, not just obviously to be a great coach, but actually have a career financially.
Right. And not have to like grind your way for till you're 35 to get your first shot and then make real money. Like,
Right. I think here nowadays, especially with the youth
dude,
movement, in 2 years of doing it, or a year, maybe even a year, depending on how good you are,
100%.
you're probably going to land the job. These, you said it, expanding staffs, right? He's going to have a great opportunity to land the job. Once you get into networks and you start landing a gig, once you land one, then it's up from there, man.
And you know how it is. You just, that one job that puts your name on that, like in the resume, now I have that on there. You're kind of set for whatever. I mean, and look at just how it works in general. Like, he's recruited the head coach of Kansas's son. So you heard him. Hey, that was a 8 to 12 job interview for me. Like, yeah, like in a way, shape, or form, 100%, because you're interacting with this guy on a certain way. But that's just, if nothing else, another network to bounce things off of and whatnot. So man, I don't know, man. That's damn. Like, I get
It's
it.
worth it
Stay broke as
nowadays.
long as
It's
you
very
can,
worth it. My theory kind of is that if you let's say you get injured like he did, dude, go
Yeah.
be a student assistant. I'm telling
Just do
you,
that. You
you
already
will
know
come
what's
out
going
of
on.
college with a job.
Correct.
Yeah, you'll come out of college and you'll have a
And
job. Well, okay, so your job, if you go get a regular job, let's say a regular job, right? If you're a student assistant for a couple of years and then you're able to get a coaching job, and let's say it's 40,000 or 50,000,
dude,
that's way more than you would get as a regular job, dude. So
otherwise you're
college
coming
football has
back to
changed
town with a
dramatically.
degree that's whatever, and you're working at a pizza place because you can't find that job yet. Like, that's supposed to be your career. I mean, dude, you're already going to be making more than your
This is a
boys or your friends.
college sports is a college sports. College football is a boom industry. So it's going to only increase the opportunities as they go forward. And I say young and old too, because look at the Indiana coach. He didn't get his first head coaching job till he was like 50 something years old.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So he didn't get his first head coaching. So you get guys that are older, you get a lot of guys that are younger. There's a mix of what people are looking for. I mean, Deion Sanders is in his 50s, obviously, right?
Yep.
Maybe 60. He might be 60.
I mean, I
know?
also think that he's
So
really like being in that recruiting role, even if it's just, hey, I'm skimming through film, or it's like those tours and that type of stuff, right? Like, that is that's where the expansion, I feel like, in college football is going to really take off. And not just so much about like bringing guys in, but like recruiting your own rosters. Like that's
Mm,
the lifeblood. If this kid can now hit on it and get a reputation of being like, hey, this kid's a good recruiter, or this kid does really excels in this department, like that could be all it takes to get him, or whatever. Like he'll be running a recruiting department before you know it. I think. And obviously, like, look, it's kind of in his blood, right? His old man works for On3 and the Husker site with that in regards. So I'm sure he has a lot of things that he can bounce off dad, who's going to tell him, like, hey, this is how recruiting works. This is how it's changing. This is that. This is that. So I don't know. It gets me excited to see a young kid who's actually excited about something. I guess. I don't mean to sound like the shitty old man here, but like, he just kind of like is passionate about it, whether it's because he got injured and just decided to stay in it, and that's fueling him or whatever. But I hope more kids like that understand that if you love football, and like you don't always have to be the player, you don't always have to be the star. Just go get one of these roles, like you said, with expanding staffs and all that other kind of stuff. Like you're gonna have a nice career, not one that, like, you're going to be having a stroke when you're 40, like, Urban Meyer or some of these guys, because it is what it is. Like, you're not going to have to live at the office. You're going to be able to see your kids and do all that kind of stuff. Like, it's going to be a different career now with the way college football has changed with money.
I think I don't know what like Deion's lifestyle as a coach, but I
Right.
actually think recruiting this is groundbreaking, by the way, what I'm going to say here. Okay. But
Hang on,
this, yeah.
everybody. Here we go. All right. Put it on. Let's go. Here it is.
Okay.
Breaking news.
I think because of all these different kind of groups that you have to go to the coach to recruit players, meaning 7-on-7 guys, maybe an NIL guy, maybe a coach. I think because of that, the head coaches that have deep, expansive relationships all the way down
Mm-hmm.
are going to be able to get guys that nobody thought they would get.
100%, because you're a people person.
Yes. And that may not be always the big names in what you're noticing. So,
Because these guys, some of those guys don't know how to talk to these.
when was Hugh Freeze at his best? When he was at Ole Miss before the whole corruption, when he could leverage the fact that he was a high school coach in Mississippi. He was the blind side. I think he was the OC on that staff. I think. But he was one of the coach, or maybe he was the head coach of the blind side. I don't know if he was the head coach or the assistant, but he was part of that staff. He could leverage his high school. He was at Mississippi, could leverage those relationships to build Mississippi. Let's go back to Gus Malzahn, okay, who's obviously been around a long time. When was Gus Malzahn at his best?
When he was coming from that high school stuff, man.
Arkansas and early Auburn, okay? Arkansas and early Auburn. That allowed him to have those relationships with places like Blinn College in Texas, where you get Cam Newton from.
Yep.
Okay. So now that he's years outside of those relationships, if he's not continuing to harvest new relationships, it becomes harder. But think about when he was really killing it. Okay. It was his Arkansas time, Arkansas State, and Auburn. That was when he was killing it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So those relationships are very, very valuable. Okay, now there are other guys that are in different situations. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is not just a pro, but also has deep relationships from being a youth coach, then a high school coach, then an FCS coach, then a now Division I coach. He is a pro guy who knows a lot of people. He also knows a lot about that youth and high school world because he coached in it. Okay?
That's the part I think, Dave, is the thing nowadays, right, is everybody just wants to, I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm the head coach. Nobody's willing to, like, work their way up anymore. What people don't understand is that when you start at those lower levels and you have to go through all of those, you meet different people, you know how to interact with different people, like you know what certain expectations are. If you've just always been at the top or you've always just been in that certain role, like I always found like the thing I got out of, I would take something away from everything, but there's not one thing now that I haven't been like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's some things, but like, because I had to go through all of those roles and do all of those things, it just makes me a better coach at this point now. And sometimes I see guys that just like, they just don't understand it. It's like, well, you've never coached at that level, or you've never coached, group 1, group 2, group 3, you've never been at a private, or you've never done this. Like, I think the experience in going through some of those things really help you in everything you do. And then the more you can do as a Swiss Army knife, now finding jobs and things of that nature are easier, right? Because, oh, I could do that, or I could do this. You're not pigeonholing yourself into, oh, well, I only coach quarterbacks, or what do you mean I have to hand out equipment? I've never done that, right? Like, go be the JV coach, man. Like, that's where you get to do your thing, right? I just think that's always, you know what I mean? Like, you've always said that one of the best experiences for you was going back and being an assistant, right? With when you went to Riverdale, or when you went to work for these other guys, and it like blew your mind, like all of that stuff. Because all of us, we all think we know everything until you get somewhere and it's like, well, we do it this way, or hey, this might be a better way to do it. Like, I just think you can take something away from all of that, and I think learning those things and going through that is awesome, you know?
Yeah, it just makes you overall a better coach, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think it's funny. I saw a video. It was a basketball video, and there's a guy I want you to follow. I'll find it. I'll send it to you. He's great. He coaches the coaches, meaning like Gino Ariema uses him as his I don't know what you call him now. Not That's not life coach, but you know what I'm saying, kind of like that. And then so does Peterson, from the guy who's is Washington head coach. I think is Peterson,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
No,
Chris
no,
Peterson.
no, he's not at Washington anymore. Where's he at?
No, I think he's just doing TV.
Just doing TV. He used to be at Washington. Used to be at Boise, right? Him, and then there was another person too that. So he's kind of like their like. So anyway, one of the college coaches he worked with, a woman, and brings up a point there. He said, "Do you think you're a better camp coach or game coach?" Interesting question, right?
Very interesting question.
Because every
Camp,
coach,
if are you a better camp coach or game coach? As in, like, are you a better practice guy, or are you better like game player?
it's not practice, meaning like they come into camp, you coach them up, then they play games in
Got
basketball,
it.
and you're coaching them, right? Are you better at that? This is a college, big time Division I college. Or are you better at like your games? When you're
Right.
And she said, "I'm a better camp coach." And he said, "Well, why are you a better camp coach?" She said,
More
"You know
time.
why? Because I don't know who these players are. They come over. It's my job now to coach them, and I've got to figure out how to get these kids to do whatever's needed to be able to play well without none of them knowing anybody, without them knowing how anybody moves, and figure out a system very quickly within camp so they can do their best and win." And I think when they mean camp, I mean like recruiting, these recruiting things, right? Meaning like in the summer, basketball's a little different. Like, but in the summer, you might remember because you played basketball, but you probably didn't try to get recruited in basketball, right? So I think they go to
Just
these
playing
things.
AAU, brother.
I think it's kind of like AAU within a camp set. Like they're practicing and then they play.
Right. I want to feel it's like almost like a showcase with a game at the
It's
end
like
of
a
it.
showcase, kind of,
But
yeah.
but remember basketball, like, look, what do you want to go out there and see? Like, I don't want to see you go out. It's not like us where, hey, go out there and play one-on-one. And like, that's not what you're kind of like. I don't want to, I can only watch you dribble around a cone so much, right?
Well,
Kind
right,
of like
right.
with us, go catch balls on air or do this or do that. It's just with football, you can't have a game. Whereas basketball, you can now go scrimmage live and go.
Well, I think what's interesting is I think his point that he was driving at is you're more relaxed and
Of
you're
course.
figuring out solutions okay, because
There's no pressure on you.
you're forced to do it with whatever kid you have, whereas you have these expectations when you're the coach of your own team of
Hell yeah.
what you expect to happen. So you're no longer relaxed. You're forcing what you want to happen versus just doing what you know how to do best.
Damn
Uh,
right.
it was really interesting. So because they tried to talk about like what is, and Gino said something I can't believe it. I gotta send you. It's this guy just started on TikTok, so it's probably like a new expansion thing for him or something. But Gino is in his interview with Gino. Gino says that he told when Bobby Hurley, not Bobby Hurley, when Danny Hurley won his first national championship, he told
Danny.
Danny Hurley before that game, he said, if you when you play in this game, no matter what happens after that game, it's gonna be a
Get ready.
negative thing for your personal life, and
Yep.
meaning if you win, you're gonna expect yourself to be back there and win again.
Every year.
If you lose in the
You're
national
gonna-
championship, then you're gonna chase the hunt to get back there to win again. He's like, but neither one is actually good for yourself
Correct.
from a personal standpoint, and may not be great for your team because you're chasing it, not necessarily them, right? And I think that was so interesting because he's trying to get coaches to think more about what, because of the state of coaching where you're winning is such an important thing. Coaches accidentally, not on purpose, and we all do it, place their whole existence, and it's selfish on whether they win or lose as if it's them, right?
Correct.
So, and
Listen, we see it.
everybody does it. Everybody does it, even when you're unintentionally doing it.
100%.
So he talks about trying to place it more on the ability of your team to succeed and what they're doing and accomplishing, and ultimately that will not just make it better for your players, but you will have less issues from your mind standpoint. You will less think that you are somehow some magician making magic happen when you go and coach. We talk
Right.
about this all the time. Every coach thinks they invented coaching, right? So
Every time.
but it's not. That's why I always am big on, even though a coach obviously has a huge impact, the Jimmies and the Joes are the most important thing, and placing the emphasis on the Jimmies and the Joes and helping the Jimmies and the Joes of your team, because they're ultimately the ones that perform. Okay. And it's like, I think about it like this. When you ever watch an orchestra, okay, an orchestra, who do they go and have take a bow? Do they have the orchestra take a bow, or they have the conductor take a bow?
Mhm.
The conductor.
Conductor.
Right. But the orchestra is playing. Now, the conductor understands how to get everyone playing in sync, right?
Correct.
But it's the orchestra that's still playing. And what does a great conductor do when they cheer for him? What does he immediately do?
Turns around,
He
points to
points.
his crew.
He points to the orchestra, right? He points to the orchestra. That's what a great conductor does. He
Look, it's
goes,
the line. It's the classic line. Guys, when we lose, it's on me. When we win, it's all you.
right. So that's the thing that I think. So he was playing all these clips of like pro coaches and Hurley and everybody. What do they do when they win? They're immediately thanking, like, their family, administrators. They don't turn around and go say,
Oh, hey,
these guys right here, you won your second national championship. How do you feel? Oh, I feel great. But they're saying, hey, it's these guys, right? So what's interesting about an orchestra, and this is actually comes from me. I didn't even watch this from this guy, but orchestra comes to mind because it's it's one of the biggest things when you see an orchestra playing, because it's usually very big when you go to a show or something, and they always celebrate the conductor. But the great conductor, and almost all conductors do this just because they've been trained probably along this route. They immediately go, and after they take their bow, they immediately point to the orchestra and have them stand up and take a
Yeah, they
bow,
know.
right?
They know who puts the work in, dude. I'm just telling you what to do. You guys work. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's interesting because as coaches, we're paid, not us, high school coaches, but the higher levels are paid a lot more money. So you're fooled into thinking that it's not that they actually think that they're the genius and they don't celebrate the
No,
players.
you just get so caught up in
You
it, and
get so
especially
caught up
like,
in it.
like, oh, I made that play. It's like, no, you didn't. Like, that's not. And that's why I
Right.
think some of these guys have hard times separating that. And that's why sometimes there's like a power struggle or a pissing match because, oh, we got to do this or we got to do that. Everybody thinks that it's like, man, just slow your roll and understand, like, hey, this is who's getting it done. Like, and then reward those people of like let them know, hey man, you're doing a great job. Like, I think
Absolutely.
those little things are just so important.
Absolutely. And people go to the level of what the reward is, right? So it's and players go to what the level of reward is, and they
Mhm.
perform to a point what the level
Correct.
of reward is. Once you're making so much money that the
Then it's
money
beyond.
outweighs any reward, it's hard. But like I was liking Wall Street, for example. I find Wall Street fascinating. Wall Street rewards purely financial success, right? So you will get guys, they're like, oh, how is it corrupt? How could it? Well, the main reward for them is literally financial gain. So their whole
Yeah.
job is making clients money so they can make money, or picking the right bet on a stock so they can make money. So if that's a
Absolutely.
reward system, it's a pure and simple path to figure out what they're going to do. And sometimes they do the wrong thing because of it, right? But
Correct.
it's a pretty simple path because a reward system is as simple as it comes. It's if you do this, you'll make this. If you do
Correct.
this, you'll make this, right? It's a
There's
very,
an
very
actual
simple
like
reward system. And
method there. Yeah, it's cut and dry, and that's what
people
makes
will
it
work to that reward, right?
correct.
Now
It's cut and
winning
dry.
winning is not as cut and dry because there's not like in high school. Winning is great. Everyone wants to win, but winning is like a intangible award.
Correct.
There's no that's why you hear people say, I won the championship and like 24 hours later I felt like empty. Yeah,
You're
because
like, yeah,
it's
because you've
intangible.
just that's it.
A trophy, I mean, yeah, it's nice, but it's not really it's very intangible. It's you're thinking winning this national championship,
Is gonna like
everyone's gonna
solve all
walk
your
up to you.
problems.
Well, you think everyone's gonna walk up to you and go, "You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. We love you so much." You're a
Nope,
Yeah, no, it's not
not
immediate.
how it works. Sorry.
A few people might do that, but the truth is,
Initially, and then it'll wear off in the next 24 hours.
in 24 hours, the next question they're asking was, "Can they do it again?"
Yep. Be
And
like, oh, well, now what do you got to do? Well, now I got to go out and I got to recruit and I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to like. Now the
Yep,
rat race, 24 hours. Nick Saban's back on the road recruiting, right? Like that was always his thing, and people couldn't
and,
understand. Like,
and
man,
that's
enjoy
what's
it. I don't have time to enjoy it. You're already talking to me about next year. Oh, we return this guy, this guy, this guy. How are you going to replace this guy, this guy, this guy? That's why this is just a rat race, dude.
it's just it's funny because sports was there was a level of rat race to it, but the financial compensation wasn't as big.
Right.
Now, with winning and financial compensation,
Well,
the rat race is for coaches in college. Okay, not high school is different. In college and pros, the rat race.
Yeah,
in
you
that
can't compare high school and college.
no, in that industry is no different than if you're a tech entrepreneur and you're trying to be ahead of somebody, or you're a financial person
100%.
trying to
It's just
make
ours is
same
on
thing.
TV.
It's the same thing. It might be higher. It might be higher than those guys, because
Yeah.
you could be a financial person and do really well without climbing to the top, right?
Right. You
But
can
in
kind of just
football,
like stay here and still be okay, right? Like,
yeah, you can make $1 million and not have to be the top guy, but
yeah,
not in football. Like
hell
if,
no.
if you're making $1 million, you're one of the top guys. Like you're an OC at top level, or DC, or or a head coach. And that's the thing that makes it even more of a rat race, that the very few can get the actual major gains, right? You're really at the top if you get to the major gains. And that's an interesting thing versus whereas like financial in tech, you could be literally a programmer and make 250,000 a year and you're just coding all day long. Like my cousin, he worked for AOL when they were in the beginning, and he had stock from it, and he was never went above being a programmer because that's what he liked to do. And I can tell you, he's probably the richest person in our family. So it's ahead of guys that are doctors, a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that doesn't happen in sports. You know what I mean? That happens in. But anyway, so that's I hear. That was a great podcast. We'll let you go, and then we'll see you guys Friday.
Tomorrow we're gonna sit down with Scott Martin, talk a little short conference playoff runs and who's clicking at the right time, and kind of talk about that a little bit. A little short conference football.
Perfect. All right, till tomorrow.